Welcome to Book Buzz Reviews and Summaries. Book, The End of Your World, Uncensored Straight Talk on the Nature of Enlightenment by Adyashanti. There comes a moment, quiet, unexpected, and absolute, when your entire world begins to tremble. Not the outer world of mountains and cities, but the inner one, the world made of thoughts, beliefs, fears, and dreams. The one you've built, brick by brick, out of identity and illusion. And in that moment, when the facade begins to crack, when everything you thought was you starts to dissolve, you realize you are standing at the edge of something vast, something final and yet astonishingly new. This is the end of your world, but do not be mistaken. This is not the end of life. This is the end of illusion. The end of pretending. The end of the small, frightened you who's been running from truth since the moment you were born. Adyashanti doesn't invite you to dream bigger. He invites you to wake up. He doesn't promise you comfort. He offers you freedom. Because real awakening isn't soft light and whispered peace. It's a thunderclap that shakes the foundations of who you think you are. It's the death of the false self and the birth of what was always real. He speaks not as a saint cloaked in mystery, but as a mirror, showing you that enlightenment isn't a mountaintop waiting to be climbed, but the ground beneath your feet you've never truly seen. So brace yourself, because the moment you see the truth, your old world begins to crumble. The masks will fall. The control will slip. The me you've spent your life defending will vanish into the light that created it. And what's left? Silence, stillness, pure, boundless presence. Life living itself through you. This book is not a map, it's a fire. It will burn through every false certainty you hold dear until only the essence remains. You will learn that awakening isn't an event. It's a continual surrender. That peace isn't something you achieve, it's what remains when the seeker disappears. That enlightenment isn't grand, it's stunningly ordinary, woven into every breath, every sound, every moment you allow to simply be. This is the path of unmaking, the unraveling of everything false, so that the truth can finally stand naked and free. So if you are ready to stop chasing and start seeing, if you are ready to let the dream end and the real begin, then open this book with both courage and humility, because it won't show you how to become more. It will show you how to be less. Less illusion, less control, less self, until at last nothing remains. And in that sacred nothingness, you discover everything. Part 1. When the world as. You know it crumbles. There comes a moment in life, sudden, raw, and unexplainable, when the walls of illusion begin to tremble. A moment when the very ground beneath your spiritual certainty quakes, and you realize that the self you've been carrying all along was never truly there. Adyashanti calls this the end of your world. Not the apocalypse of the earth, but the disintegration of the inner world you've built through ideas, identity, and belief. This isn't the end of your existence. It's the end of your dream. The shattering of the great lie that says you are separate, incomplete, and in control. He begins his journey not as a preacher or philosopher, but as a truth-teller. His words slice clean through the spiritual fog. No incense, no mystic riddles, no sugarcoating. Awakening, he says, is not what you think it is. We begin with the shock of awakening. It often happens quietly. A moment of stillness so pure that everything falls away. For some, it comes during meditation. For others, in the middle of heartbreak, despair, or even laughter. In that instant, the I you thought was real evaporates, and you glimpse a vast, boundless presence. You are no longer the thinker, the doer, the struggler. You are the infinite awareness in which all things appear and disappear. And then, just as suddenly, the mind returns. The ego, clever and persistent, whispers, "Ah, so this is enlightenment. I have achieved it." But that, Adyashanti warns, is the very first trap. True awakening does not belong to anyone. It is not your enlightenment. It is the universe remembering itself through you. Pure consciousness, realizing its own nature. The moment the ego claims it, the illusion is reborn. Adyashanti, in his signature raw honesty, tells us that awakening isn't a cozy escape from life. It's the beginning of something far more intense. It's not the finale. It's the start of a fire that burns everything false. Enlightenment doesn't make life easier. It makes it real. He writes, "The end of your world is not the end of the world. It is the end of your dream world, the end of illusion." This, he says, is why so many fear awakening. Because when truth dawns, it does not just illuminate, it destroys. It destroys the comfortable lies, the familiar pain, the sense of control. You don't gain something new. You lose everything that never truly was. The crumbling of the false self. The first part of this book confronts the reader with a paradox. Awakening feels both like dying and being born at the same time. Adyashanti explains that most spiritual seekers imagine enlightenment as a crescendo, a glorious ascent into perpetual peace. But the truth is more humbling. It begins with unraveling. The personality with all its stories, I am this, I am that, I deserve, I fear, I want, begins to crumble. You may feel disoriented, even frightened. The mind scrambles to rebuild structure, to understand what just happened. But the deeper truth cannot be understood. It can only be lived. He compares this stage to waking from a dream. In the dream, everything felt vivid, real, urgent. But once you awaken, the dream dissolves. And you realize it was all taking place within you. Similarly, after awakening, life continues, but you can no longer cling to it as you once did. You see the impermanence in everything, even your own thoughts and emotions. And here lies a crucial revelation. Awakening is not a single event. It is a process of integration. The flash of realization may happen in a moment, but the purification it triggers unfolds over time. Your old conditioning doesn't vanish overnight. The body, mind, and emotions must learn to live in alignment with this new reality. You are learning, as Adyashanti puts it, how to walk without a self. It's not easy, it's not meant to be, because the very one who struggles is the one who must dissolve. The temptation of spiritual identity. One of Adyashanti's most piercing insights is his warning about spiritual ego. After awakening, many fall into the subtle trap of believing they've arrived. They adopt the language of truth, the posture of detachment, and the confidence of enlightenment. Yet underneath, the same old patterns remain. This, Adyashanti says, is perhaps the greatest danger of all. The ego that once identified with failure now identifies with freedom. It wears spirituality like a mask, polished, calm, and self-assured, but still rooted in separation. He urges readers to be ruthlessly honest with themselves. True awakening is marked not by perfection, but by humility. It leaves no trace of self-importance. It is the quiet knowing that there is no you apart from life itself. Freedom, he reminds us, is not about being someone who is free. It's about realizing there is no one there to bind. This is the first death, the death of identity, the fire of truth. By the end of part 1, Adyashanti invites the reader to stop running from truth, to let it burn. Every belief, every attachment, every should and must. Must enter the fire. This is not self-destruction, it is purification. Enlightenment is not adding light to your life. It is burning away the darkness that hides the light already shining. You are not here to gain something spiritual. You are here to lose everything that is false. That loss is your freedom. That destruction is your rebirth. So when your world begins to collapse, when the ideas that once held you safe start to crumble, do not run. This is not the end of your life. It is the beginning of life itself. This is the end of your world. Part 2. The fire of integration, living after the fall of illusion. When awakening first strikes, it feels like lightning, brilliant, explosive, and world-shattering. But after the flash, after the sky of your old self has split open, and the thunder of revelation fades, something else begins. The silence, the rebuilding, the integration. In this second part, Adyashanti speaks directly, not to the seeker, but to the one who has glimpsed the truth and now struggles to live it. This is the most dangerous and delicate stage of awakening, the phase where the mind, body, and heart must catch up to what the soul already knows. It is here that enlightenment stops being an event and becomes a way of life. When the fire turns inward. After awakening, most people expect everlasting peace, a life without struggle, without confusion. But Adyashanti warns, the storm isn't over. In fact, the real storm is only beginning. Because now, all the lies that once hid in the shadows are being dragged into the light. All your unhealed wounds, your hidden fears, your buried desires, they surface with intensity. The unconscious no longer stays unconscious. The light of awareness burns through everything it touches. This process, Adyashanti says, is not punishment. It's grace. It is the divine hand cleaning the vessel, washing out all that cannot remain in the light of truth. He writes, after awakening, there's a great purification. Everything false is being brought up, not to torture you, but to free you. Imagine a river, long blocked by stones. The moment the dam breaks, the water surges forward, clearing the debris. That surge, violent, beautiful, unstoppable, is what happens within you. Many mistake this turbulence for failure. They say, I must have lost my awakening. I'm back in my ego. But Adyashanti insists, you cannot lose truth. Once seen, it cannot be unseen. What you're experiencing is truth dismantling the residue of illusion. Your psychological conditioning, your emotional armor, your attachment to me. So when the fire turns inward, let it burn. Don't try to fix yourself. You're not broken. You are simply being purified. The collapse of control. In the old life, before awakening, the mind was the master. You planned, judged, analyzed, resisted. Control was the center of your existence. Now, that control is dissolving. This is the hardest part. Because awakening doesn't just take away your false identity. It takes away your illusion of control. Life begins to move through you in its own rhythm, unpredictable, mysterious, and beyond reason. The ego screams, but what will happen to me? Who am I if I'm not in charge? And in that moment, Adyashanti says, the deepest surrender is demanded. The kind of surrender that's not about giving up to fate, but yielding to reality itself. He tells us that awakening is not about you living a spiritual life. It's about life living through you. You are no longer the doer, you are the expression. He says, you are being lived by life itself. The river doesn't push against its own current, it flows. In that moment, Adyashanti says, the deepest surrender is demanded. The kind of surrender that's not about giving up to fate, but yielding to reality itself. You are no longer the doer, you are the expression. It flows. Liberating, because it replaces effort with grace. The echo of the old self. Even after awakening, The old patterns echo through you. The mind whispers old stories, old habits resurface. You may find yourself getting angry, jealous, fearful, and wonder, how can this happen if I've awakened? Adyashanti smiles gently here. He calls this the echo of self. The energy of the old identity may still vibrate for a while, like ripples after a stone hits the water, but the key difference is, you no longer believe in them. Awareness doesn't destroy thought, it transcends it. You begin to notice that these emotions, these reactions, are simply movements within consciousness, passing weather, not the sky itself. You stop identifying with them, and in that disidentification lies true freedom. He urges, don't fight what arises. Don't turn awakening into another project of self-improvement. Let the divine undoing happen. This phase is marked by humility, because every time you think you've arrived, life shows you another layer of illusion to release. And yet, each unveiling brings deeper peace, not the peace of escape, but the peace of truth. Living without a center. One of the most profound ideas in this part of the book is Adyashanti's teaching on centerlessness. He says that before awakening, we live as if there is a center, a me, around which everything revolves. But when awakening deepens, that center dissolves completely. Life flows without a fixed point. There's no you observing the experience, only experience itself unfolding. It's like standing in a vast open field with no boundaries, no direction, no center, and realizing this is home. At first, this feels disorienting. The mind panics without a reference point. But slowly, a new intelligence emerges. Not the intellect, but intuition. You begin to live from stillness, from silence, from the unspoken knowing that needs no thought to act. This is where you stop trying to live spiritually. You simply live, and your living becomes the expression of the divine. The humility of the infinite. In the fire of integration, something unexpected happens. Humility blossoms. Adyashanti writes with striking clarity that true awakening is not grand. It's not about walking around, radiating light or preaching wisdom. It's profoundly ordinary. The most awakened people I know are the most human, simple, open, unpretentious. You no longer feel the need to be special or spiritual. You simply are. You laugh more. You cry freely. You feel the wind and the sound of rain as if for the first time. You don't need to explain truth. You are truth. Enlightenment doesn't make you divine. It reveals that you always were. And this realization fills your heart with unspeakable gratitude. Because you see, it was never about becoming perfect. It was always about becoming real. So the fire continues to burn, but now it burns sweetly. The illusions of self keep melting, and in their place rises a quiet power, the power of presence. You begin to walk through the world not as someone enlightened, but as no one in particular, yet more alive than ever before. This is the second ending, the death of control, the death of separation. And through that death, life begins to live itself. Part 3. Freedom beyond the end. Living as awakening. When the storm has passed and the inner fires have burned their course, what remains? Silence, stillness, a vast and tender emptiness. The self is gone, the masks have fallen, and the illusion that once ruled your life has dissolved into the wind. What's left is not a new version of you. It is the absence of you, and in that absence, a radiance, a presence so intimate, so alive, it feels like love itself breathing. This is what Adyashanti calls living as awakening. Not the pursuit of enlightenment, not the aftermath of a mystical event, but the simple, wordless existence that is enlightenment. This final part of the end of your world is not a sermon. It's an invitation to live freely, to be empty of self yet full of life, to stop seeking and simply be. The disappearance of the seeker. All through your spiritual journey, there was a seeker, someone striving, yearning, meditating, hoping to find the truth. But now, that one has disappeared. Because to seek enlightenment is to assume separation. To seek peace is to assume distance from it. The seeker can never find the sought, because they are one and the same illusion. Adyashanti writes, "When you stop trying to wake up, you realize you never fell asleep." The mind cannot grasp this. It keeps asking, what now? What should I do? How do I live this awakening? But there is no how. There is only life, happening spontaneously, beautifully, without the interference of you. The doing happens without a doer. Speech flows without a speaker. Thought arises and fades, like waves upon the infinite sea of awareness. You are no longer the observer of life. You are life, observing itself. This is freedom beyond all effort, the simplicity of being. One of the most stunning truths Adyashanti delivers here is that enlightenment is utterly ordinary. It doesn't elevate you above humanity. It drops you deeper into it. You still wake, eat, love, laugh, and sometimes weep. But you no longer cling to anything that arises. The drama of life continues, yet your heart rests in stillness. The divine and the human merge completely. He writes, "After awakening, you don't live in a permanent high. You live in the simplicity of now. You see the sacred in the ordinary. A cup of tea becomes a meditation. The sound of birds becomes scripture. The laughter of a friend becomes a hymn. There is no longer any divide between spirit and matter. Everything is alive with the same consciousness. It is the realization that what you sought in temples and teachings has always been right here, in the rustle of the wind and the pulse of your own heart. Compassion as the natural expression of freedom. As the illusion of separateness dissolves, something extraordinary arises, not as a duty, but as a natural expression of awakening, compassion. When you no longer see me and you, love becomes effortless. You see the fear in another's eyes as your own. You feel the pain of the world as your own body aching. You no longer love from intention. You love because you are love. Adyashanti reminds us, true compassion doesn't come from trying to be kind. It comes from seeing there is no one to protect, no one to defend, no one apart. Parenthesis. In this realization, forgiveness becomes unnecessary, because there's no longer anyone to forgive. Judgment fades away, for there is no other to judge. You live from a quiet tenderness, a peace that doesn't avoid suffering but embraces it, knowing it too is an expression of the same divine play. This is not a sentimental love. It is fierce, clear, and all-encompassing. It allows everything to be exactly as it is, life as the teacher, silence as the master. At this point in the journey, there are no more lessons to be learned, no more methods to apply. Life itself becomes the teacher, each moment a fresh revelation, each breath a doorway into infinity. Silence, Adyashanti says, becomes your master. Not the silence of avoidance or retreat, but the silence that sings behind all things. When you are silent within, you hear the voice of truth in everything. The noise of the world no longer disturbs you, because you see it as part of the great music. Whether joy or sorrow, gain or loss, it is all the dance of the divine. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? because there is no me left to whom it happens. There is only this, unfolding perfectly. Every moment is fresh, spontaneous, and free. Living as nobody, yet fully alive. This, Adyashanti says, is the paradox of ultimate freedom. To become nobody, and yet to be more fully alive than ever. When you stop being someone, life can finally move through you unobstructed. Creativity blossoms. Joy rises for no reason. You live without need for validation, without fear of failure, without the constant hunger to prove or protect an identity. You are not trying to be enlightened, you are simply being. And that being, unforced, uncontained, is the essence of enlightenment. It's the same awareness that moves the tides, blooms the flowers, and spins the galaxies. It's what has always been living through you. Even when you believed you were separate, you now see what Adyashanti calls the end that was never an end. Because there is no final enlightenment, there is only the eternal unfolding of awareness, endlessly expressing itself in new forms. The Great Return. In the closing reflections of the end of your world, Adyashanti speaks softly, with the humility of one who has seen beyond seeing. He tells us that after awakening you return, to life, to people, to the marketplace. You live, love, and laugh again, but with a profound difference. You no longer carry the burden of you. You can fail without shame, succeed without pride, speak without agenda, and serve without expectation. You walk through the world as empty as air, and yet, wherever you go, presence fills the space. This is the Great Return, returning to the world not as someone who has transcended it, but as the world itself, awake and aware. It is the end of your world, yes, but the beginning of the world, the real one, the one that was always here when the dream of me dissolved, the living truth. And so, in the quiet after the fire, truth remains, not as an idea, not as a teaching, but as you, no longer seeking, no longer struggling, just breathing, being, seeing, as the infinite awareness in human form. Adyashanti leaves us with a final whisper, not of instruction, but of invitation. Let yourself die before you die, and see that what you truly are was never born and will never die. That is enlightenment. Not a destination, not a reward, but the unshakable realization that you were never apart from the divine, even for a single breath. You don't reach it, you remember it. And when you do, your world ends, and life begins. 3 timeless takeaways. Awakening is not an escape. It's the death of illusion. It dismantles every lie you've ever believed about yourself. The end of your world is not tragedy. It's truth, revealing itself through fire. Integration is the real journey. Enlightenment is not an event, but an ongoing process of purification. You must live the truth you've seen. Let it reorder your heart, your relationships, your very way of being. Freedom is profound simplicity. The enlightened life is not grand or distant. It's the ordinary made sacred. You discover that what you were seeking has always been here, in the quiet miracle of this moment. Thanks for listening to Book Buzz Reviews and Summaries.